Chesapeake, Virginia is very interesting. It is one of the most in-demand cities for people to live in the Hampton Roads area. It is very relaxed. It's in demand for school districts. It's got so much that people go out of their way to move to the city for. On the flip side, it is very boring. It has lots of drawbacks. It has areas that people actually shy away from. So what I decided to do is, for people that are moving here, I graded each area anywhere from D all the way up to A, and even an A plus rating in Chesapeake. I'll talk about things like school districts, prices, house styles, what it feels like to live in each area, things that can explain why each area is great or not, because I'm a local and I've lived here my entire life. Hey, my name is Sansalone, and at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about an A plus area that to me is, I think, my favorite in all of Chesapeake. So make sure and watch to the end to see which area that is. So I'm going to show you first where Chesapeake is. So if you look on the map, you've got the south side of Hampton Roads. You've got the peninsula up here. South side's here, Norfolk, Virginia Beach. You got Chesapeake down here. Well, Chesapeake is it's a large city. And I see it's like a big horseshoe. You see on the western side over here, it comes down around, swoops around. And then on the northeastern side over here, that other side of the horseshoe over there, and it's got a big splotch in the middle. Well, most of the south part of Hampton Roads is Chesapeake. Look how big it is. So what we'll talk about is a lot of different parts of Chesapeake. And again, I'll grade it from D to A and A plus. So let's start with the D's. Starting off with South Norfolk. Well, I just said South Norfolk. Why am I saying South Norfolk even though I'm talking about Chesapeake? Well, it is actually Chesapeake. South Norfolk is right close to the center of Chesapeake. If you look, you see where it says South Norfolk right here. So looking at the map, I'm going to show you first the entire city of Chesapeake. So you see it's in this central section of Chesapeake, kind of in the northern central section. It's not just where it says South Norfolk. South Norfolk kind of goes from there all the way up to almost like basically the border of Norfolk and Chesapeake, and over closer to where it says Plymouth Park, down closer to where this is Atlantic Avenue near Providence Road. This is all South Norfolk, and going down towards Portlock down here. This whole section right here is South Norfolk, and I'll drop a pin here so you can see it, but South Norfolk is one of the oldest portions of Chesapeake. It's got the historic houses. There's a historic district in South Norfolk, and this is part of it, I think, right here on Rogers Street. And there are a lot of older houses, these old craftsman, Victorian, colonial style houses with this massive, and so prices, you're going to see houses, that might be $350, $300, $400, that are big, gargantuan houses, and only in South Norfolk would you see this in Chesapeake, right? Big lots sometimes, and so if you want a bigger house, that's what South Norfolk can allow. On the flip side, also there's some parts that can feel pretty run down. So, for example, dropping a pin over towards the main portion of town is Poindexter Street near Bainbridge, and they're doing some things to renovate this area here, but it still feels old. Some older parts of town that just haven't been really touched that much over time. And like I mentioned, you'll see even in the historic portion of South Norfolk, they're trying to do some renovating and make it feel a bit fresher, and it's getting there. As you drive down, for example, Bainbridge, you see how it changes drastically, right? It's just an older part of town, and it feels that way. This is where I'd say definitely do your research. If you're buying a house, that you want a bigger house, you want that kind of that historic vibe, definitely do your research, check crime, check the school districts, check, like got Oscar Smith High School District in some of these places. And now this is Oscar Smith High School District. And do as best you can. Again, Street View can help a lot, but it even sometimes takes more than that, because it might take talking to some neighbors, make sure you're going different times of the day to see what it might feel like, because there are some amazing pockets in South Norfolk. Like zooming out, see where this pond is, Lakeside Park. There is an area down just around here. I have some friends that have lived around in South Norfolk for years, and it's great, so there are some nooks and crannies in here that are, I think, for value, awesome. And I think, Cape Cod style houses to me are a drawback. I don't like those as much, but if you're talking in the $250, $350-ish price range, you're going to find houses in this area much cheaper than you can find for the same price, even going into Norfolk, Virginia Beach, or even other parts of Chesapeake. So for value, as far as price per square foot or just size of house goes, this is pretty much the cheapest you'll find in Chesapeake. Again, you'll find some drawbacks here as well. I do think for the price, this might be worth considering. Definitely like I said, do your research and all the stuff I talk about. Check out crime, school districts, areas, because again, shopping, there's not a whole lot up and around the South Norfolk area. You'll find some near Bainbridge, some like Food Line on the main road. Not a lot of shopping, like big box stores. That's where you might find you're going to other parts of town. For example, Greenbrier, which we'll talk about here shortly, or even in Norfolk or Virginia Beach. Not as much specifically in South Norfolk there. So not really a place where you might find yourself staying in to do a bunch of shopping. Another thing that I think is just annoying, and you'll get used to it, is you're super close to the Jordan Bridge, which sounds great, okay, because you can connect over to Portsmouth, which you might not need that, for example. But even if you do, it's right next to you, right? Sounds great. It's an expensive toll road. It is one of the most expensive in all of Hampton Roads. And so if you find yourself on Google Maps and it takes you across the bridge and it's too late, you're going to be paying for it. So it's a nice bridge to look at. I used to bike and run across this bridge a lot, for a year or two. But again, that being said, it's nice to look at, but it's a frustrating one to drive across because of the cost. So that leads me over to the next D neighborhood, which is Deep Creek. The D in Deep Creek does not stand for D. Deep Creek. Deep Creek is a D for a few reasons. There are some benefits to being in Deep Creek that I like a lot. One of which is it's in an area of Chesapeake where you see here it's kind of a country area. Deep Creek up here near Camelot, Deep Creek North, and then Deep Creek South, which goes over down closer to Culpeper Landing, closer to Cedar Road, Moses Graney Trail. But on this side over here, this whole section here is Deep Creek, and it goes up towards the line of Portsmouth over here, and even bumping over closer to 264 and 64 over here. So it's a pretty big range of area here. So there are some spots, as you can see, as you get further down south, there are some areas that feel kind of more rural, and you can get some unique lot sizes in Deep Creek. So let's go up to the northern side. Let's go off of Shell Road. It's a great example around Shell Road. So great spots around here, right? You got maybe some detached garage situations, in bigger lots like that. You'll find some more country style, even not just in a developed neighborhood, but you'll find some that have more of a rural feel too. This area, if you see a picture of a house in Deep Creek, you're like, well, this is nice. 3 or 4 bedrooms, 1,800 square feet, 1,900 square feet for, 380, 425, not bad. You see even here, Shell Road is more of a rural type setting that you might find in other parts of Chesapeake. See even this, great example of houses with bigger lots, detached garages in some cases, and bigger backyards. You love that, and that's what you're looking for if you want something that has more of a rural feel to it and more land. So that's great, right? Deep Creek School District, do your research on the school districts. So for example, Deep Creek School District is where this is, and you might find that it's maybe for you or not, but it does also affect the pricing, right? So you'll see some spots around Shell Road that look great, that feel great, and some small little nooks and crannies neighborhood-wise that are awesome too. So I'll drop a pin on Lake Ridge Crossing. I know people that live in this neighborhood and turn around here. Some real nice functional 3-4 bedroom houses over here too. So you say, well, why is it a D? Well, again, it's a little bit cheaper. So that's one of the reasons why I think, again, if you want the affordability factor, I think a place like Deep Creek is great. You're also closer to some rural areas down the back corner of Deep Creek, going down towards Dominion Boulevard. This is close to the Dismal Swamp, which I like the Dismal Swamp. I used to run down here a lot too. I was a big runner for years. And it's pretty rural, and it's like a nice big huge park close to Lake Drummond. It's quiet, not much for houses, but coming down this section, it's quiet and you're close to it, right? Another spot is Culpeper Landing. I want to specifically talk about Culpeper Landing, a neighborhood in Deep Creek, because this is a newer development. Newer, houses built 8-10 years ago, and it's kind of that more contemporary style. Some houses are on some tiny lots or smaller lots, but you're going to get what I think is a pretty contemporary feel, and the price for that is very appealing. So when you look at these houses, they're mostly 4, maybe 5 bedrooms, the detached garage or even attached garage, and then they look great online. So if you're coming from a different part of the country and you see these houses, and you're thinking, okay, finally a house style that I like, and it's in an affordable part of town in Deep Creek. Well, again, the pricing is that way for specific reasons, but these are, I think, pretty affordable and appealing for the style of house that it is. But there are some other factors in here that I think are definitely big drawbacks. One of which is the shopping lack, which we've mentioned that in South Norfolk, but close to Deep Creek, there's not a whole lot of unique stuff. There's a Food Lion close by near Old Mill Road over here. So whatever, that's not the end of the world. You can go to other places and get shopping done, whatever. The big one to me that's a big drawback is that there is a bridge right here. You see this bridge right across Moses Graney Trail. I'm going to drop a pin. You got this little tiny bridge right across this drawbridge right here. Okay, you say, well, who cares? Big deal. Well, I care because it backs up a lot. And they're trying to do some work on this too to make it easier. But if you're in Deep Creek and you want to go across to the rest of Chesapeake down over closer to Grassfield or further over, you might most likely, unless you want to go all the way around, you got to cross this bridge, and that's why it's so congested. And even going back further up, depending on which time of day. Okay, so this time of day when Google Street View showed it, it's not as busy, but it can congest real fast during about, I say, between 3:30. You see right there, 3:30 and 5:30. Turning here and going through this, navigating through this intersection is the worst. And so that matters a lot, because you might think, oh, I'm in Culpeper Landing and I'm going to be able to commute to Norfolk or Virginia Beach and it'd be maybe 23 minutes. Oh, maybe, or it could be 39, because it's hard to get through this bridge. And so that to me is a frustrating portion too. And another thing is it feels very industrial. So I'm going to show you on George Washington Highway. Good example of this is you got some older parts of town where you got some old houses along the main road. But then, this is back then, this is like 50, 60 years ago, this was the main road. This was the road. But it hasn't really changed that much, and it just feels kind of tired. And I mentioned that before in other parts of town, it just feels tired. And that's part of what makes, to me, Deep Creek not as appealing, is that tired feel. And as you go further north towards 64, there's some spots that feel the same way, especially going across over towards the north part of George Washington Highway. It just feels that way. And going up towards Camelot as well, this area can feel pretty tired as well. I'm going to show you what I mean. And so it's kind of a shame, because Route 17 is a long road. It's got a lot of access points to it. There we go. This is right off. There's a Family Dollar right there. It's got old strip malls up and down George Washington Highway. So that's another drawback too that bothers me. So again, you got to contextualize how important is it to live in an area that you might find houses in the 350 to 450 range. But maybe even a Culpeper Landing situation that might be in the fives, low fives. But for the price, you might get a great example of what you can get there. You can't get the same thing over in the rest of Chesapeake for the same price. You might be paying $100,000 more or $50,000 more. But if you want a smaller house, Deep Creek North has some good options, like 3-bedroom, 1-bath for $280 kind of a thing. Or Camelot, you're going to find them in the 3-ish range. 325, but bigger. So cheaper, and you're going to be trading off a lot of stuff. Check crime in the Deep Creek area as too, to make sure you're comfortable with what you find there. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what areas are good or bad. I just want to make sure you are doing your research and make sure you're aware of the general maps of crime, and you can go into and do some research on that. And so now let's go into the C areas in Chesapeake. There are a few, and a couple I think they're really good values. The first C neighborhood we'll talk about is a total flip in the other part of town, which is Fentress. And Fentress is over down in the southern part, southeastern portion, over where it says Butt Station. Well, Fentress Airfield's right here. Well, the area I'm talking about is the kind of the surrounding area around the Fentress Airfield. And not a lot going on over here, but the reason I'm mentioning this area is because they might want country living and find themselves looking in a place like over near Fentress Airfield. In big country land, I mean, it's great, right? It's you got acreage. If you want acreage, this is a place to consider. It also blends into the acreage that you find over in Pungo and the south part of Virginia Beach. It's not the same, but it kind of eventually goes into Virginia Beach, and so you'll find similar kind of vibes over here, just not as much going on though. The school districts are generally in demand. You'll be in Great Bridge School District, which is generally an in-demand school district. One of the benefits too is you get access to up towards North Landing over into Princess Anne in Virginia Beach. If you want to live in Chesapeake and be able to get to Virginia Beach, this is pretty much the quickest access point that there is to Virginia Beach, over into the southern part of Virginia Beach, which is going through North Landing Road, which started at Mount Pleasant. So being close to that's really helpful. I did a video talking specifically about Ravenna, this neighborhood here, it has a cool, it's one of the, I'd say for the price, the brick 2-story, you can go from there and take Mount Pleasant all the way over, and it's a quick little sneaky trip over to the south part of Virginia Beach. And it's kind of the same in the Fentress area. The prices in here are going to be anywhere from the 400s to the 5s to 6s. I mean, those big custom houses are going to be, could be 6 and up, 7 and up. For those bigger ones, especially if you got acreage. I mean, you could find them in the 7s to $1 million and up if you had those big ones that randomly get plopped in there. So there is a big variety of pricing, but if you want country living, you can get a cheaper alternative here as opposed to other parts of Chesapeake. Now, there's a big drawback to Fentress is being near Fentress Airfield. Check the AICUZ jet noise zone map, which I've talked about more in Virginia Beach. But it's the same thing in Chesapeake. It's just not as much of it. But Fentress Airfield is very loud. It's loud. So lots of noise. If you live near here, it could be a shock because when you think of jet noise, you might think of Virginia Beach. And that's why this Chesapeake one can sneak up on you. So be very aware of the noise concern here. It can be as loud as other parts of Virginia Beach. So that can be frustrating, especially because you can live super close. There aren't too many places you can live this close to the airfield if you're over in Virginia Beach. So it can shock you. It can even be louder here than Virginia Beach. So that's a big issue there. So that's one area that I'd say I would consider as a C area. Another one that I've lived in myself is an area called Norfolk Highlands, which again, you keep bringing up these Norfolk neighborhoods. This is not a Norfolk video. It's a Chesapeake video. I know. So Norfolk was a bigger area way back when. So when it says Norfolk and Norfolk Highlands and South Norfolk, it was Chesapeake. This area of Chesapeake was Norfolk way back when. And so it's just called Norfolk Highlands, but it's still Chesapeake. And it's this area right here. This right near the water. Down closer to the southern part around where it says Rokeby, Indian River over here. This is all Norfolk Highlands. Draw this kind of circle right here. Now, why I like Norfolk Highlands, and I actually love Norfolk Highlands, and the reason is because you're going to find a pretty nice sized lot in Norfolk Highlands for the price. And the prices I'm talking about are going to be in the low to mid 300s to start. See these deep lots here? It's pretty nice. Low to mid 300s to start, into the 4s, and new construction will be in the low 5s at this point now. But you can even find them in the 450, 475 range for the right one. So I wouldn't be surprised. But it's a pretty nice neighborhood, and it's relatively quiet. It's a big one, so you have a lot of houses in here, so you have a lot of options to find because most likely something will be for sale at any given time because it's just such a big area. And like pretty easy to navigate, just this grid setting in some spots. But as you go further north from here, Indian River Road going across, this area here is up in the northern section of Norfolk Highlands. It's sneaky cool, man. Like if you go up in the top corner near Tanglewood Trail, let's just drop a pin. It's nice and quiet, and there's water access back here. Big houses, sprawling ranches, some even two-story. See that water? There's water. That's nice waterfront, and you can get some of the cheapest waterfront in all of Hampton Roads you can find in Norfolk Highlands, the north corner. And so I don't think people recognize the value that you can find. See, there's a new construction house right there, newer construction right there. You see that? I love it. The prices for the houses off the water over here, in the low 300s mostly to 4, even going down towards Sparrow, Haraway, Laurel Avenue over through here, and you see the sizes of them here, similar to what you find in the rest of Norfolk Highlands. But as you go further north, you'll see it shifts over into the larger 2-story or larger ranch style, 3-4 bedrooms over into the 4s, 450, even into the 5s, and then you get on the water, you're talking about 6s, 7s, and up. But you're getting a good value here. I've seen houses, some of the big ones, over $1 million, like these guys on the edges here. But man, that house, these areas over, going over into Virginia Beach would be several $100,000 more. So there's a good value in Norfolk Highlands, anywhere from the 300 price range up to the $1 million and up price range. Everything here will be cheaper. One restaurant I want to mention, you see it says Wicker's Crab Pot Seafood. This is a great restaurant, and I love this one. And it looks kind of like a dive. It's pretty cool. It's good. It's right there. You see that? It is kind of like an old, house, so to speak. Now that leads me to one of the drawbacks of Norfolk Highlands is you see what this looks like. It's also really old, and they haven't done a whole lot else yet to change it. This strip mall here, they haven't done a whole lot else yet either. So, is it going to be better? I have high hopes for Norfolk Highlands. Irwin's Pharmacy is a great pharmacy right there, by the way. So, older restaurants, older shopping. I think you'd find yourself going over to Costco, which is, it's close to Costco. Going over towards Virginia Beach over here to find more shopping. Not as much over here, but it just feels tired over here as well. And Chesapeake is doing its best to make this area, it's going to kind of turn this area up and make it a little bit more in demand. So they're making some effort into doing more parks, putting more money into this area. And I think it's going to change over time, but it might take longer than one might want it to take, which is, a lot of the areas that take a long time to develop. I mean, most areas that you see change, it takes longer than one might want it to. So it is kind of is what it is. But I do like Norfolk Highlands, and it's a C, and I like it for what you get. Another benefit is too, you're also close to Greenbrier. You can take Military Highway and get to Greenbrier real fast. I mean, you're like 8 to 10 minutes away from parts of Greenbrier. So I like that. So there's not much for shopping in Norfolk Highlands, but you're not too far away to get to a lot of great shopping, which is like in Greenbrier, for example. So Big fan of what you can find in Norfolk Highlands. It's a C neighborhood, and I think great for the price. Now we're going to the B areas in Chesapeake, and there are a few. I think for value, I think the C's and B's are some really good ones in the areas in the C's and B's. So the first one shifts us all the way over to the western side of Chesapeake, over into Western Branch. Western Branch is, so you got school district, Western Branch School District. It's a pretty in-demand school district, and people will come and stay here for the school district. Elementary schools, middle schools, and high school. It's in an area that I'd say kind of feels like another part of town over towards Greenbrier. In some ways, I call it Greenbrier Light. Greenbrier is over here where there's a lot of big box stores. You've got Chesapeake Square Mall, which is right here. So you got some shopping that's convenient. So you could live your whole life, kind of in the Western Branch area. There are houses on the north side that it kind of feels like newer, you got some newer subdivisions, and then you have some older ones like here, like 60s and 70s, and some houses built in the 80s. But you can have a mixture, and it feels similar to what you might find in other parts of Chesapeake, over closer to Greenbrier, closer to Deep Creek in some parts. But it's very quiet, and I say a lot of functional floor plans. I'm going to show you actually some new construction. This is an area for any part of Hampton Roads, one of the newer parts of town, because back here there was a lot of land to develop in the 90s and 2000s. So let's just, for example, I'm going to go over towards, let's just drop a pin here. You'll see these are houses built in the 90s. So newer houses here, as opposed to what you might find like where we just talked about over in Deep Creek. More houses that are newer in this area. The houses in this area also are going to be in the 4s, 5s, and 6s mostly. Not as many go up over 7 and 8. You'll find a few neighborhoods, specifically in like Western Branch South near Dock Landing. You'll find some in the 8s, some real nice neighborhoods. And what you'll pay here for a house in the $750, $800 price range, you might pay $900 and up in Virginia Beach. So you get that kind of a classic 2-story. A lot of houses in the Western Branch side have 3 full baths. This is a benefit to being in Western Branch, is the 3 full baths. Don't ask me why. I think the reason is because a lot of houses in the Western Branch area were built in the early 2000s, which that's just one thing that happened a lot then, is a bit more of a contemporary but bigger house, which led to a bit like 5-bedroom, 3-bath type of floor plans. So in the 7 and 8 range, you'll find more houses in this price range that have those 3-bathroom options, and even going to the 6s and going even lower, sometimes $550, you'll find them in this Western Branch South area, especially that 3-bathroom dynamic. It's neighborhoods I like, one of which is Dock Landing. I just talked to you about Dock Landing Road over down towards Chadwick Terrace, which is right here. These are, I'd say, pretty boring, Sam. Like, it's why you showing me Chadwick Terrace, but man, quiet. The lots are nice. You got that spread out factor here for the low 400s price range, 425-ish. I love it. I love Chadwick Terrace. You can get to the rest of Western Branch pretty easily. The school districts check the box. I love it. You're not going to get, an amazing house necessarily. I think you're going to have some nice options though. The floor plans are functional. I think for the price, Chadwick Terrace is one of my favorites that you can find in any of all of Chesapeake, period, I think. And you can go up to Porson Boulevard and get to the shopping pretty easily as well. But Jolliffe Road, closer to the south side of Western Branch, near Dock Landing, near Jolliffe Road, like this area for the price, again, anywhere from the 5s, 6s range mostly. Going up to Portsmouth Boulevard, though, new construction. This is one of the, I think, nicest new construction areas. I actually have a home inspector I like that has had good reports in Jolliffe Landing a lot, which is over closer to the border of Chesapeake and Suffolk. These houses are in the 6s range, the new construction, and you'll see it got bumped out a lot here. For the price, I think you'll find some good options here. Lot sizes are smaller, but that being said, getting new construction in the low 6s, I think that's a pretty helpful and good value. And you're close to Chesapeake Square, and I do think there's some more growth happening in Suffolk that I think being close to that is also helpful too. You got the Amazon distribution center, of course, is right there. So I like being around this area, which I like. That's why I like Jolliffe Landing. But in general, the Western Branch side is in demand too, because you got some real nice water views. Anything on the side of Western Branch North, you got some real nice spots that have some. You see, drop a pin, you see the docks. There aren't too many that sell on the water in Western Branch, but when they do, you're getting into the 8s and 9s. Point Elizabeth, some great spots over on the edges on this side over here, 8, 9, and $1 million. But sometimes you can find some that are less. And so I think in the area near Point Elizabeth here on this side, over near Tire Neck Road, I love this area a lot. So I'm a big fan of some sneaky little spots that are in the 6s and 7s price range. But for a colonial style or just classic style house, being off of Tire Neck is nice. And you're kind of surprised because you don't really expect to see those types of houses in Chesapeake, period. And you can find that over in the north side of Western Branch. So anything around the northwestern branch side, southwestern branch, I'm a big fan of for the price. And again, you're starting in the 4s, going up into the 6 and 7 range is your biggest average kind of range. So I'd say average sales price, let's just say $525, $550. But you can get some good value on the water in the $750 to $859 price range over in the Western Branch side. So let's go back over into the central section or south part of Chesapeake in an area called Grassfield. So this is right next to Deep Creek. Grassfield is right here. I'm going to just kind of scroll out right here. This big section here is most of Grassfield. And I'm talking Grassfield in terms of Grassfield School District, but people just say Grassfield and they'll kind of blend it together. But this whole area here is Grassfield near Dominion Boulevard, Moses Grandy, near Cedar. Cedar Road's a great spot over on this side. Was some great neighborhoods over on the Cedar Road side of Grassfield. Places like Las Gaviotas, places like Forest Lakes. And Cedar goes all the way through here over towards Moses Grandy and then turns into Cedar Road. And so this side is I think my favorite portion of Grassfield over towards Las Gaviotas over here. This is Las Gaviotas, which is a nice neighborhood in the 5s and 6s. You can get them in the 7s, also some of the bigger ones. I'll show you what I'm talking about. But average sales price in here is going to be in that $550 to $600 price range. Great place for families, great place for, near a golf course, but it checks all the boxes for functional floor plan in the 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom size. 2,800 square foot is pretty common. I love Las Gaviotas, built in the 90s, which is when a lot of the houses around here were built. You'll find some off of their price in the $775, $850 price range. Got that classic, like that 2-story brick we talked about. Again, this is when the newer houses were built. Talking about like early 2000s, 2005, 2001, in that range, you'll find out some houses in the Grassfield School District where that happened. Now, the reason is because Grassfield is the newest school district in the area. And so back before Grassfield, there was Hickory, which is going over, we'll talk about later, in Great Bridge. Well, Grassfield was formed to to help with all the new developments that were happening. So this is one of the reasons why you'll see a lot of new construction in Grassfield because of that. Now, close by shopping, you got Cedar Road, anything up and down Cedar, like you got Walmart, some good, like Burrito Perdido is a great restaurant. It's actually a burrito place in a gas station right there. The best burrito in town, period. But you're all through there is more shopping, more grocery stores. Food Line is near. There's a new Publix that just was built. I was just there, and around the corner here, which used to be an old Farm Fresh, and so Publix is kind of making its way into town. So anything through Cedar, all the way over, going over towards Battlefield Boulevard. This is all Grassfield, going closer to Battlefield, but not that far. Going right over here is kind of where the line stops, right over here, kind of where it says Great Bridge. Forest Lakes, I'll show you. I love Forest Lakes, a great neighborhood in Grassfield School District. And these are going to be in the 6s and 7s mostly. And I think, the brick is what makes it, kind of sets it apart. The trees, I love it. So you get a lot of nice kind of that 4 or 5 bedroom style in Grassfield. Now, the drawback to Grassfield to me is that it's kind of tucked in the corner and you have to drive to other parts of town, maybe to get in through a toll to get there. So, for example, Dominion Boulevard, Veterans Toll Bridge right here, that's a toll. Also, the bridges that might be frustrating to get around or intersections to get around, one of which is the Great Bridge, which is here, which, getting from Grassfield to the rest of Chesapeake or the rest of Virginia Beach and Norfolk, you won't have to drive across the toll, but you might. And so you would likely need to get there the quickest. So that to me is frustrating. Again, it's not all the same. There's some spots that may have some issues with flooding going over towards the Elizabeth River. So check that as well. Going over to an area, you'll see a lot of just kind of what you might find in Culpeper Landing, I talked about in Deep Creek. Another area similar to that is Parkview. I'm going to show you what I mean because these houses are awesome looking. Stephen Alexander Homes built a lot of the houses in here, and they are unique. They have awesome floor plans. They did a good job of making windows a primary kind of the star of the show in a lot of these houses. And so these are like in this $550, $650 price range. I'll show you what I mean here. Like real nice kind of contemporary floor plans. And you see a good example. That's a great floor plan. They use space very well. But the drawback is you're in a high-risk flood zone in some of these spots around Parkview, and that's a good example of what I'm talking about. Check the closer you get to the Elizabeth River and the area around here, it get marshy. Just check for flooding, check for flood zones. Off to Bell's Mill is a great example of an area that might have some more flood insurance issues on that side. So that's one of the drawbacks of being in Grassfield. So now let's shift attention to another B area that's going further south, which is Pleasant Grove. Pleasant Grove isn't discussed much because it's so far down the south. But man, if you want custom style houses or land to build a house on, Pleasant Grove is it, I think. And you can call it like Ballahack. It's because Ballahack Road's right here. You could say Benefit because Benefit Road's right here. Some big long streets that, I mean, just plop it and you'll see it is what? Okay. Country, right? Country. It is a long set of roads that you got farms down here, businesses like landscaping businesses that kind of set up shop down here. So Aerosoft Field, that's a great spot. Triple R Ranch. I used to go there when I was a kid. So you got either nothing, farms, or random houses. I'll even show you kind of, let's drop a pin over near here. See if we can find the other example. Oh yeah, look at this. Long driveways, big houses, like 5-6 bedrooms in some cases, but you got 3,000-4,000 square feet. Prices in here are going to be mostly starting in the 6s mostly, because these houses are going to be big, but going up into the 8, 9, and even $1 million if you got big houses on big lots, like multiple acres, which can happen also. So if you want that custom house style design and you want to build a house down here, you can do that, but you're going to be paying, and again, new construction is going to be in the 8 and up range mostly for a house in the Pleasant Grove area. Now, getting to the rest of town, it can be frustrating. Signal, cell phone signal can be frustrating. So driving up to Norfolk, Virginia Beach is going to be a hike. 40 plus minutes in some cases. Now, being close to the 168 bypass helps with that because you can just go straight up to 64. But even still, long drives, the night drives and driving down the long side roads can be dangerous if you're not paying attention. The ditches on the sides of the roads, that whole country lifestyle is in spades down here in Pleasant Grove, around Ballahack, around Benefit Road. This is what it is. And but if you want that life, you got it down here. Mostly it's in Hickory School District, which is an in-demand school district as well. So you're going to get some great access points to schooling here. And people come out of their way to go to some of these Chesapeake school districts, and they compare them to places like in Virginia Beach, for example. Now we'll talk about the next B area, which is actually one of my favorites in all of Chesapeake. We almost moved here ourselves. It's called Butts Station. I know the name's stupid. It's dumb. I don't actually know why they call it that. Butts Station. So, if you live there, it is what it is. For example, Butts Station, this is what I would call it, Butts Station. All through here, where it says Butts Station Road, all through here near Clearfield, all around through here, some great neighborhoods down through there. We'll talk about one of those neighborhoods specifically in a minute. But see, even as you go down further down south, it says Albemarle Acres, down where it says Butts Station. So I don't personally call Butts Station down here. And the reason is because Butts Station Road is over here. And so that's one of the reasons. Now, also alternatively, I call this area Albemarle Acres. I kind of throw that into Hickory. Hickory we'll talk about later. Butts Station Elementary is actually on Butts Station Road right here. Butts Road Primary, I'm sorry, not Butts Road Elementary. So it's kind of a convoluted mess as far as what's Butts Station, what's not Butts Station. I call Butts Station over here. It's close to Greenbrier, which we'll talk about here later. It is, I think, a sneaky part of town because it's close to a lot of things in Chesapeake. You've got shopping galore nearby, several minutes away. Now, one of the drawbacks is not as high-ranked school districts, but that's one of the reasons why it's priced where it is. It's priced really well. You'll find, for example, Greystone is a neighborhood right here. This is a neighborhood that's in the 7s and 8s range. But you'd be paying $100,000 more probably if you're in Virginia Beach. It's real, kind of more of a majestic look to the neighborhood. It's a small HOA, you don't get a whole lot in here, but kind of a newer contemporary style. And same thing, you get some three full baths in here. I love Greystone. It's one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Chesapeake. If I was going to move anywhere, I would consider Greystone as one of the top spots. So you got the school district, Oscar Smith High School District. Do your research on the rankings and all that stuff. Niche.com, greatschools.org are good examples of places to look. But anything near Elbow Road, you can get to Elbow Road and go to Centerville Turnpike and go up and down Centerville Turnpike and get all the way over through the rest of Chesapeake up into Virginia Beach. So you're pretty convenient to Virginia Beach, pretty convenient to the rest of Chesapeake, to Greenbrier, and you're not paying as much for the house because of demand often of school district or just I think it's just underrated. I think it should be priced a little bit higher. So in other areas around there too, I'll drop a pin there. So over closer to these newer construction over here, like this is Warrington Hall, which I'll call this Butt Station, but this is right on the edge, and we'll talk about the areas near here in a minute. But Warrington Hall is a great value. HOA with a pool. Love this for the 6s and into the 7s price range. You can even find some townhouses in the 4s and 5s. I think value here is great. Tree-lined streets, close to a lot of parts of town. I just think this is one of the most underrated portions of all of Chesapeake is Butt Station, what I would call Butt Station here. Anywhere from the 5 and 6s price range up into the 8s price range. Great value for what you can find. Newer contemporary style houses in Butt Station. Now, let's go to the A neighborhoods. There are some amazing A neighborhoods, but you might be surprised by how much I might be picking some nits with a lot of these A neighborhoods too. So you might find that some of the Bs you might like better, but we'll see, because some of these As, I like As for specific reasons too. So let's go back into the area called Edinburgh. Edinburgh, there is only one neighborhood like Edinburgh anywhere in Chesapeake, and it is Edinburgh. So the reason that Edinburgh, so it's right here. You see this little splotch right here? Okay. Most of Chesapeake, as you go further down closer to 168 right here where they built the bypass, back when I grew up mid-late 90s, this was not really here. This was just, this is all country down here, right? Big, and you can see the green, like I talked about Pleasant Grove. Well, they built this area called Edinburgh because as the growth started forming in Chesapeake, there are new places where you had to find new construction. And this is one of the spots, the general area, the South Chesapeake area was where new construction was forming. Edinburgh kind of exploded about 10 to 12 years ago, where you had big boxes, Walmart, Home Depot, Chick-fil-A, you got the restaurants, Buffalo Wild Wings, like for example, some good restaurants, but more chains formed all through here. Well, the Edinburgh neighborhood, this is going back into like just around 15, 16-ish years ago, Edinburgh was built, and it's the toast of Chesapeake. As far as exquisite luxury, Edinburgh is unmatched. It's got, these are 5, 6 bedroom houses in some cases, big lots. You're talking about houses on a couple of lakes too in here. You'll see houses in here as low as maybe in the 8s and 9s, but you'll see some houses in here in the 1.1, 1.2, up to 1.7. I've seen them higher than that. It's luxury. The materials are amazing. You'll find a lot of houses with pools, as you'll see here. The bigger lot sizes, unmatched style of house and size of house. Period. I want to show you different parts of Edinburgh. This is the actual neighborhood. It's called Edinburgh. It's amazing. So if you want a house that has luxury, that has the most unique features, the most expensive materials, brick, bigger lots, everything you're going to want, it's going to be Edinburgh. It's just not a big neighborhood, which is one of the drawbacks because you don't really find too many houses in here. But going further down south from there this is all Hickory School District, by the way, which is one of the most in-demand school districts in Chesapeake and Hampton Roads, all the areas. There's also Hickory Manor down further south from here. These are condos, detached condos. I personally am not as big a fan of these because of the detached condo dynamic. You can get them in the 6s range, 650 range, 2,500 square feet to like 32 mostly. But if you want that HOA dynamic, but they're condos, you're not going to own as much of your land. And that's something that I don't like as much. But it's got the cheaper, newer house, but also Hickory School District. That's what Hickory Manor does. And it has all that in spades. So anything close to Edinburgh, I think, is primo for the price for the school district, and it's Hickory School District. I think you have to acknowledge the splendor of a place like Edinburgh. Some people won't like it because it might feel too cookie cutter, too big boxy, and I get that. But Edinburgh, the neighborhood itself, is kind of sets it apart from the rest of the area, and I think that's why I call it an A neighborhood, even though it does have some things I don't like the cookie cutter aspect of it. And you're kind of in the middle of nowhere if you leave Edinburgh. But also you have Hickory High School is right there too, so all your school aspects are pretty close by, which I think is also a big factor and what makes it even more in demand. Which leads me right next to there is an area called Hickory. Hickory is one of my favorite parts of Chesapeake, but it encompasses a bigger area. So we talked about the area like Butt Station on the north side. We talked about Fentress. Well, this is Hickory. I know it says Fentress right there, but Hickory is all through here. Like Etheridge Manor, some great houses in the 6s down here. Etheridge Manor, Hickory Manor, a very popular neighborhood. I spent so much time in my childhood, like teenage years, in Etheridge, in the Etheridge Manor area. Brick ranches, 2 stories. On this side, they're going to be a little bit smaller, like 2,000 square feet in the 5s range, 550 price range. But in the 6s, like low 6s, you'll find in Hickory Manor, it's like Blackthorn Drive, great example. This is more of like the houses built in the 90s, 4 or 5 bedroom houses. Nothing fancy per se, but man, it checks all of the in-demand school district family lifestyle boxes. Very contemporary floor plan, but it has some compartmentalized feel in here in the upper 5s, low 6s. That's when even going into like further back, you'll find some that are more like in the 750-ish, 800 price range and up, going around closer to the water. Over down closer in this section, closer to Fentress Loop, you'll find them in the 750 and 8. But even Etheridge Lakes over here, this is 7s, 675 to 8-ish range. Same kind of thing, but just different style. I call them the Etheridges because there are a lot of areas here that have the Etheridge name in it. Etheridge Lakes and Etheridge Manor, 2 good examples of that. But this is like the heart of family dynamic, great Christmas lights down here, that kind of thing, all through the Etheridge Manor area. Shopping nearby, not a lot close, but this Harris Teeter is a very popular one, and I run into friends of mine there a lot. Over towards Hanbury, people say the word Hanbury a lot, Hanbury. Going over towards on the other side, closer to the Great Bridge High School over here. This is all Hickory, all through here. And I think if you find a house in the 475 up into the 750 price range, all through Hickory, I think you're going to be very happy with what you get price-wise, school district-wise. You're going to be pretty much bored, which is one of the factors in Chesapeake was ranked as the most boring city in all of the country, Chesapeake. And it's not a lot to do necessarily, but it has like that kind of that country, a little bit mixed with suburban, a lot of it mixed with not a lot to do per se. But I just went to Big Ugly Brewing. You see where it says recently viewed because I just went there recently. So some good breweries down here, good restaurants. Butcher's Son, for example, over closer to where it is in the Great Bridge area, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this is Hickory. So Hickory checks all the family boxes, right? And you keep going further south, you can go down towards Hillwell. You see, there's actually a neighborhood right here, Woodard's Mill, which 3-acre lots, big 3-acre lots, and love that, but 800 to 1.2 down in Woodard's Mill. But the forest, the trees, like you get a bunch of different stuff like this in Hickory also. So that's why I like the variety of Hickory. Now it's variety, but again, Chesapeake was ranked the most boring city in the country for a reason. So it's variety in terms of houses and styles based on within the family of family-oriented neighborhoods. And so that's one of the reasons I do like Hickory, but maybe a drawback is because it still is boring and kind of in the corner of the city. Now that leads us over to Great Bridge. Now, Great Bridge is very similar to an A area to me. It's similar to Hickory in that it kind of bleeds into it in some ways, but it's got some notable differences. Number one is you see where it says Battlefield Boulevard right here. This is the definition of, to me, if I'm picturing like rural kind of country vibe Chesapeake, this is what I picture. And I'll drop a pin here. So Cedar Road, Battlefield Boulevard. This is like to me the epicenter of Great Bridge and of Chesapeake, South Chesapeake. And it's got like this kind of old country vibe, and it's kind of a mishmash of random stuff. But with that, you see all these businesses that this Wells Fargo, this old bank, but you'll see new businesses built into old buildings. This old house here. Keep going. There's some good restaurants that are also built in these old style buildings. And so that's just kind of the nature of what makes Great Bridge is this style of thing where it's like old strip malls. You kind of almost feel like, is this okay? This feels kind of weird. This is like in demand Great Bridge, believe it or not. There's Mr. Jim's, a very good sub place there. And next to there, across the street, is a place called the Hickory Trading Company. Where is it? There it is. Also, it's an old building. It's a coffee shop built in here. So this is kind of the vibe of Great Bridge. My parents, one of their favorite restaurants is Chesapeake Pizza. Where's Chesapeake Pizza? Right here. There it is. And again, old buildings smashed into this old building. Same thing. This building next to it is an old bowling alley, which is now a church. This is kind of the definition of Chesapeake, but mainly Battlefield Boulevard. So Great Bridge is great because it has that old style vibe, it's kind of a small town vibe, but some great neighborhoods also next to them. So Great Bridge's neighborhoods, one example is Wilson Heights. Great, like kind of a 60s ranch style, 4s, 5s, and 6s price range. You'll see most of them are in like the low 500s price range and mid 500s price range. I love this style of neighborhood. The lot sizes, you got, there's no sidewalks. Got the drainage ditches, which, it can be a drawback personally, but at the same time, like, you kind of it's kind of comes with the territory for the style house that this is. But I like the construction. You get the sometimes detached garages. I just love it. I love Wilson Heights for the 5s price range. Now what happens is Great Bridge's neighborhoods kind of bleed into each other, but they become newer. So 90s easily goes as you go further down into where you see Cheshire Forest. One of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Chesapeake is Cheshire Forest. In the 5s, 6s, and 7s in Cheshire Forest. You got HOA with a pool in Cheshire Forest. I'll drop a pin so you can see the style of house over in here. Same, it still has the 2-story, 90s more so now, but has kind of a foresty tree feel in a lot of cases, but I think it's really great. And again, you'll have some houses on lakes as well. So any area around here built in the 90s, you'll see some newer construction, kind of that newish 90s new construction in this area. But that's what Great Bridge is all about. This whole section here is Great Bridge, and I love it. And so you got close to shopping, main strip, and takes you up towards the rest of Chesapeake. The biggest drawback to Great Bridge is you're close to this stupid bridge, this Great Bridge, which I do not like. Well, I mean, it's cool. It's an iconic look for a bridge, but man, so you might look, if you're coming from a different part of the country and you're doing a map on Google Map and you're like, okay, well, how long does it take to get from like Wilson Heights, for example, up to Virginia Beach or the rest of Chesapeake? And maybe it says 22 minutes. Well, it may not factor in this bridge. So if the bridge goes up, add an extra 10 minutes to that. So it's the annoyance of having to go through the drawbridge is, to me, one of the biggest annoyances of being a Great Bridge. Now that leads me to my A+ area. We haven't talked about this area yet. It is Greenbrier. Greenbrier is awesome. It has several awesome features about it. I love it. So a little nostalgia here, but it is like the prime shopping area in all of Chesapeake. The big boxes, some mom and pops, but all through Greenbrier here, it's amazing. And it had the Greenbrier Mall. That was like the toast of Chesapeake for a long time, but now it's an old rundown mall like most malls are. But the city is trying to do its best to have city council meetings about Greenbrier Mall, how to turn it into a newer kind of a destination spot again, which I think they're going to be doing that pretty soon. So that's going to even up Greenbrier demand even more. But big boxes like Chick-fil-A, Barnes & Noble, Best Buy, Target, all that stuff that's close by here. So you kind of feel like you're in the middle of stuff. And so you're in Chesapeake, and you got all the rural aspects of it of Chesapeake, but in Greenbrier, it feels more suburban, leans more into like the busyness of it. Now, Summit Point, downtown Chesapeake, is right here too. I talked about Summit Point in a lot of different videos. This is all brand new, relatively brand new. X-Golf, good golf simulator. Luce Secundo, a Italian restaurant. Cork and Bull, Neat Bird, a new chicken place I like. Over here, Wasserhund Brewing Company, it's also good too. So newer area that feels more downtowny, and so being close to that is nice. And there are some neighborhoods near there too that I think it's good appreciation. Essex Meadows right here, Brick Ranch neighborhood. You can get to Summit Point in a couple minutes. So Greenbrier West over here, Greenbrier East over here, some similar types of neighborhoods, some older brick ranches in some parts, but Ashley Woods, some 90s style over here and over closer to Bayberry Forest, which is a great place right behind Greenbrier Mall in the kind of the 5s-ish price range, 5 to 6. So I like this area for what you get being close to Greenbrier Mall. But you get a mixture. You got some $300,000 townhouses, $275 over here near Mill Lake Quarter. Across the street from there, Ashley Woods, and over towards Turtle Rock, the $350, $375, $400 price range, but smaller single family houses. I love that too. So you have a variety of styles of houses in Greenbrier, but you're also close to all the shopping in Greenbrier Parkway and like all through Greenbrier, like the Greenbrier Mall area over going towards Greenbrier West, Lowe's, Home Depot, Sam's Club, all that Walmart. I just love that you're close to all that. But then going over towards Volvo Parkway, got places like Emerald Forest, Emerald Lakes, great neighborhoods around Greenbrier Country Club, some condos and townhouses over here too. But if you're on the golf course, you're talking 8, 9, $1 million and up. Custom houses are fantastic, like these big, like 3, 4, 5,000 square footers, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 in some cases. Love that, but it can be on the higher price range. But one street I want to mention is Simon Drive. If you want more of an exquisite kind of a 4 or 5, 6 bedroom house on a lake in the 900 to 1 million, 1.1 price range, this is one of the only spots you can find it, and it's on that lake. And so if you want to be accessible to a lake, have a house, a nice big house on a lake in brick, this is one of your few options. Now, veering over, the more neighborhoods I like though too, which is like Kemp Woods, which is over here off of Kempsville Road. This whole section of Kempsville, right next to Butt Station, it butts up to Butt Station. Huntington Lakes, which is right here, like 4s, 5s, and 6s. I love this part of town. Like some great houses on lakes, some cheaper ones on the lakes. This is your option if you want houses in like the 6s and 7s on a lake. This is pretty much your option in Chesapeake on this side of town is Huntington Lakes. But 4 or 5 bedrooms, 5s, 6s, price range mostly in Huntington Lakes and Huntington Woods. So I like this whole side of Greenbrier because you can get up towards Virginia Beach very easily. It's right, the line is right here. So I love Greenbrier. I love being around it. I love just the atmosphere. It's great. It's comfortable, casual. I think it's like it's hard to replicate what you can find in Greenbrier. So if you have any more questions about relocating to Chesapeake or any area in Chesapeake or through Hampton Roads, up through Williamsburg, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, let me know. It's what I do. I love helping people relocate to the area. So if you have any questions, I have my contact information in the description. You can call me, you can email me, you can text me, or you can download the relocation guide I have in the link in the description as well. And then again, you can reach out to me at any point. We can make a plan to relocate to the area and talk about different houses, styles, price ranges, and all that. And I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I'll see you on the next video.